250 years old. The United States is having a birthday, had a birthday. So, astrologically, we're going to dive deep in this video to see what is the future of the United States, what the United States started with, and we're going to look at a total of 5 different charts, if not 6 charts, and we're going to compare. So if you've never had an astrology reading with a professional astrologer, you will get to see the way I operate as a professional and how I go about the prediction or what's lined up for the future. And that way you'll have an idea of what astrology is really all about. It is a wonderful tool, and we're going to explore the astrological and spiritual significance of America's 250th birthday. We're going to discover insights into the United States' Cancer identity, major planetary transits, the Pluto return, the solar return, and even a Mercury return, and the spiritual transformation unfolding over the next 10 years. So if you don't already know me, I'm Ev Zervudakis, the founder of Holistic Healing Astrology, and I'm here to help empower women using the metaphysical tools, especially astrology. So I am going to share the chart with you, and we will take a look and see the screen here and right here, and it's advanced. So hold on one second. Thank you for here we go. So we're going to look at the chart of the United States, and this is the birth chart of the United States. So if I was doing a reading for you, this is what we would be looking at, your birth chart. So if you understand that the outer wheel here is the sign and where each ascendant or each house cusp or each planet is, it's all measured by degrees. So the signs are on the outside, and all these little glyphs or symbols are the planets and the abstract points. And over here, these blue, green, and red lines are the communication between the planets, because planets talk to one another. And that's what gives us the understanding and the insights in your astrology chart. So here we are, back in July 4th, 1776 at 4:50 p.m. Philadelphia time. The sun was in 13 degrees Cancer. But as you can see, that not only was the sun in Cancer, but so was Venus and Jupiter, and the part of fortune, and the vertex, and Mercury. They were all lined up in Cancer, okay? Cancer, and we're in Cancer season. That's why I thought this is a good time to look at the birthday of the United States and speak to the forecast of the United States. And whether you are a US citizen or not, a lot of eyes are on the United States. So how the messages come through is each symbol is a planet here, and each planet has specific meaning. So the sun is what you want, what you focus on, and where you shine. And it's in the sign of Cancer, which has to do with nurturing, protective, feeding, family, home, making it feel like a home, not just a structure. And its two building blocks are emotions, which is a water sign, emotions, feelings, they're very fluid. And it's a cardinal sign, which means that they take initiative. They like to start things, but it's the emotions that make them start things and take the initiative. That's that Cancer energy. In Cancer, the archetype is hard on the outside, soft on the inside. And like a crab, the Cancer crab, uh, they go underneath or they look both ways and then they'll dig the sand and they go underneath. So that's the energy. But if you look and see that uh, around, conjunct the sun, this is astrology talk, we have Venus and Jupiter. Now, those are the two very fortunate planets. They're good, it's great energy. Venus has to do with love, with money, attraction, what you're attracted to. It's also luxuries, right? And Jupiter is expansive. Jupiter is a planet. It's not a hard surface planet. It's just gas, nothing but gas. So it's always bubbling over and, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's not solid. So, but it has to do with morals, ethics, higher education, the big picture, expansion, and making things bigger. It's the ruling planet of Sagittarius, and Venus rules two signs. It rules Libra and it rules Taurus. Uh, Taurus has to do with possessions and, money, food. They're farmers, and Libra is ruled by Venus too, but it's all Venus. Libra has to do with society, kind of love, like uh, fashion. So the way you appear to others, looking pretty and fashionable and having luxuries and jewelry and things like that, being well liked. Okay. So with that kind of a lineup, this country, it's only 250 years old. It's not like Egypt and like the ancient countries in Mexico and Greece and uh, Italy, like Rome and things like that, or even India, very established cultures. So for this is a very young country, but we were the breadbasket of the world. We fed the world. So even Mercury was in Cancer. Mercury is how we think and how we speak. And uh, it's also its greatest joy, success, and prosperity has to do with nurturing and caring for everybody. And where is it? The house is the area of life. In other words, um, the area where it shines and it's really great is in shared resources. So it's been a very affluent country, okay? And that's one of the big things. When it came to the way we think in Gemini, a lot of great visions, took action on the ideas, especially with others and our relationships. But on the ascendant, very adventurous. This country was based on high principles and values, ethics, morals, and philosophy and principles and higher education. The founding fathers were extremely educated. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they were pretty smart. But they were leaving for principles. They left England for principles. And at the top of the chart, the social status was all about the details, all about earth and putting things in order, analyzing, And on the bottom of the chart was spirituality. So that's the quick thing here. Of course, the moon was in Aquarius, and Aquarius has to do with scientific information, the collective, being all together, the United States. So emotionally very intellectual, and seeing the collective humanity. That's the feelings and the sentiment of this country, especially with information and communication. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Pluto, because Pluto had a return, and we'll talk a little more about that. So let's look and see what the outer planets, this is how we forecast, are doing with the United States. So this is how we do a forecast with the transits. So the biwheel, inside is the natal chart in here. So it's pretty congested, as you see. And then outside are the outer planets the way they are, or the way they were on July 4th. Okay. So you see here that the sun is at the same position in Cancer. So that means it's a new cycle. And Jupiter, you look for zeros. When we see zeros in astrology, it means that it's a new cycle. The new cycle for expansion, for joy, benevolence, the big picture, philosophy, higher education, values, all those key words that have to do with our ways of entertainment. So it's a new cycle on being very comfortable and leisurely. Okay, that's Leo over here. So Jupiter in Leo starting a new cycle, and that's affecting the natal north node, which is our purpose. Our purpose is to create fun and a good sense of humor, and to have leisure time for the world. I mean, look, we started a retirement plan so people would have money when they get older. So this is all kicking up again, and it's going to get even bigger. How? We don't know. If you look over here, the planet of ideas, the planet of communication, how we think, how we process, is 25 degrees Cancer, which just made a return. A return means that it comes, this transiting planet, which moves very quickly, but it's in retrograde, is at the same spot during the birth of the chart, or the birth of the nation. So what makes this unique is that Mercury is in a retrograde. So it already went forward past this Mercury in the eighth house. And then it goes backwards with the retrograde, and then it will go forward again with the Mercury moving forward. So we're going to have 3 times that we're going to look at the same information. And so it's a very volatile time, if you think about it, because we have the planet Uranus next to Mars. So Uranus is like lightning bolt, very quick energy. And Mars is like a gun, a cannon. It initiates. It's like an arrow. It could be a weapon. It's like, let's do it. And so that's in the area of our daily life. So there's a lot going on in this country. It's explosive news. And especially now that Mars has triggered the Uranus. So it's going to be very shocking, very explosive type of information. It's also very visionary. But what everybody's looking at in everybody's chart are the three outer planets, and Uranus is one of them. So these move very slowly. So they have a very long effect. And excuse me, you see, Pluto is in 4 degrees. It's retrograde right now. So it's in 4 degrees of Aquarius. Neptune is in 4 degrees of Aries, and they're in a harmonious relationship, and they're talking very nicely to each other. So Pluto is about transformation. It's about underneath the surface, digging underneath the surface, and with all this corruption, the whole world is seeing it, but it really is affecting our goals and our purpose, and also what is familiar to us. So, as a nation, excuse me. Excuse me. Now we're going to look at so when we look at the big three outer planets over here in the chart, we could see that they are, let's see, I'm going to stop this. And if you remember back in 2020, we had the Pluto return. That means that Pluto returns back to its natal position of 27 degrees Capricorn. And this country was founded on a retrograde Pluto. So Mercury was retrograde, and so was Pluto. So Pluto, again, has to do with major transformation. It has to do with underneath the surface. It's either really small things becoming big, or really big things going viral, or becoming so small and minute. It's like extremes. Pluto is very much into extremes. So Pluto also is very intense, and it has a psychological tone to it. It's permanent change. It's irreversible change. So has to do with government or big business, structure, accomplishments. So back when Pluto was in 27 degrees, the whole world changed. This COVID situation changed not only the world, but this country as well. And we've never been the same since there. Now everything is Zoom. It just, so many things changed. That's not what this video is about. This video is about the forecasting using the different tools in astrology. So as I said before, these three outer planets, and I'm going to take a look here, right here, the three outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, which pretty soon will be at 4 degrees, and Mars is at 4 degrees now, and then Jupiter in 2 to 3 weeks will be at 4 degrees. Well, we've never seen anything like this before, ever in history. So you're going to be hearing this a lot. Never before, never before, never before. So never before have we seen these outer planets lined up the way they're lined up over here. So it's just amazing how it's going to impact the world, but definitely it's impacting this country, okay? Big time. Now, what does this all mean? It means that there's spiritual tones to it. It's fantasy, it's magical, and it has to do with our homes and how we live in our homes, that spirituality. So spirituality is coming back into the homes. This daily bombardment of news and everything is shocking. Every time you turn around, there's something even more shocking. But what if what's going on in the world is so despicable that we all wake up, because Uranus is about waking up, and we're forced to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not doing this anymore, because Jupiter has to do with justice and philosophy and doing the right thing. It's law enforcement. And look at this, we even have a 0 degree, another change in cycles of Chiron, which is the wounded healer, the big mentor, and healing, and it's old traumas that are being healed when it has to do with our possessions, our money, with our children, with how, we use our creativity. So there's a lot going on. But what does it really mean? We don't know exactly, but we have to pay attention to the energies. So these energies are working in tandem with the spirituality is causing permanent change, and it's going to wake us all up in a huge way, very huge. So there's a lot of potential healing going on, especially spiritual healing. And we're going to have this lineup of the 3 outer planets for at least a year or two. And especially Neptune and Pluto, they're going to be hanging out together for a long time. The good news is that the way they're speaking to one another is very harmonious. They're not yelling at each other, and they're not pushing each other around. It's not causing a lot of stress. Now, this here, yes, this is volatility over here with the Mars and the Uranus. Over here, we have the Chiron, the wounded healer, but it's next to the greatest joy, success, and prosperity. So we're going to heal the past, maybe the debt. We're going to see what's going to happen through creativity. But we have Neptune in relation with, of course, Pluto, and they're going to be hanging out, like I said, together. But this is going to be for the whole world. It's very collective, all one. And of course, on July 4th, it was in harmony with the moon as well. So they were all together, but the moon moves so fast that that's why we have moons. If you want to know your monthly forecast, you look at the lunar returns, and that you'll see what goes on month by month by month. And if you want to know what goes on every year, then we look at the solar return, which is coming up. So let's take a look at Black Moon Lilith, because a lot of astrologers work with her, a lot of astrologers don't. But we have here, right here, Venus, the planet of money, the planet of attraction, in the ninth house, which has to do with higher learning. It has to do with philosophy, values. It's close to and in a relationship with our Black Moon Lilith. So Black Moon Lilith represents the hidden emotions, the hidden side of our personality. We used to say the dark side of the moon because it was the hidden side, the far side of the moon, because you never see that side of the moon. You always see the face of the moon, not the back of the face or the back of the head. So this is the side of the personality that we never see. Well, it is being exposed, and it has to do with money. So, and when I've done a lot of research on Black Moon Lilith, but Black Moon Lilith also could be the negative emotions associated with things that we don't want to talk about. For example, human trafficking, exploitation, bullying, all these, not only human trafficking, but, pornography and prostitution, things that are not comfortable to speak about, but it's a reality. And if you see here, that there's a little impact right here, and Venus will be conjunct with this Black Moon Lilith. So the other thing is we have to look at how are these outer planets affecting not only Black Moon Lilith, but how they're affecting the other, like Saturn, our responsibilities to our relationships. And that's at 14 degrees. So we look around and we see, well, right now, the sun, so we have some responsibilities that we have to work through, with our accomplishments and our social, our reputation. We have a duty, and it's hard work to maintain these relationships. We're ticking off a lot of people, but it's something that you see, it lines up. So it's square. We call that square. And when we analyze, we have the Saturn opposite one another. So Saturn is the energy of constriction. It's the opposite of Jupiter. So it's solid as a rock. Jupiter is not solid. You can't land on Jupiter, but you probably could land on Saturn, because it's solid. It's hard work. This country was built on hard work and relationships. Okay. But you see here, it's exactly opposite of the transiting Saturn. So we've got some things that we have to balance out. We have to balance out who we are, what are we responsible for, and the relationships, our home life and our relationships. And if you look at Saturn, it's very stable. It's reality, but it's also lessons learned. Now, are we learning our lessons? Because it's not a return, it's a half of a return. So it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about the lack? Because right now there's a lot of lack. We're $1.5 trillion dollars in debt to other people. We gave away our power to other people. It's also discipline, obligation. It's old, it's thorough, it's persistent. And these are our goals. So we have to relook at our goals, for ourselves. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do to be ready? Are you just going to listen to what the rhetoric is, or are you going to use your own intelligence and figure out, hey, what's going on? I'm not going to be part of this, or I'm going to stay calm because I'm not going to be manipulated. Because the way things are being exposed, it's the elite that are using the human population in very corrupt ways, with organ harvesting, and you talk about the Holocaust being a horrible thing. Well, taking humans and making money off of a human being for harvesting organs, that's a thing. It's a real thing. And that's what we need to be looking at. What is really going on? What is our money that is being collected by the governments around the world, not just the United States? What's this money being used for? But this is all about the United States. And something's going to give. Something is going to give. This cannot last forever. This country will never be the same again. The world won't be the same either. But this tells us that the country will never be the same again. And also, transiting Black Moon Lilith is opposite Jupiter. So this is big. Again, big exploitation, especially when it comes to our self-worth and money and resources. You see, they're using very bad methods to make money. This is right here, corporate greed, and it's in our second house, which has to do with our own resources. So that eventually is going to be exposed and revealed. So let's take a look at the next chart, which is the solar return chart. And I'm going to slide it over. And feel free to write any questions in the comments. I apologize for the lengthy forecast here, but there are 6 charts involved. And of course, I can't have a conversation with the United States, but if I was doing the forecast for the United States, and the United States was a person, then they would share some of their thoughts and what happened in the past, and we would have a dialogue about it. So I'm giving you different options to look at. So this solar return chart is based on the position of the sun that returns to its natal position. So right now, the natal position of the sun is 13 degrees in Cancer. So here it is, July 5th at 2:22 a.m., the sun was in 13 degrees Cancer. So where is it? It's in the area of resources and money. So here we have it. And that's where the focus is going to be for the next year. And how we appear to everyone as far as what we're going to look like. It looks like a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of action, a lot of great ideas that are, behind the scenes working, but it's all data, communication, could even be AI. Uranus in Gemini is AI. So Then we look at the moon, and the moon is in Pisces. That's a very spiritual sign. So our feelings and our emotions in this country are very spiritual in nature, almost escapism, like fantasy. And that's our social status. But also our purpose is spirituality. So it's time to just kick back and say, look, are we going to be focused on corporate greed, which is here? This is corporate, big companies, structures, governments, or the collective world, humanity. And the focus is on humanity. Of course, any politician, I don't care if they're presidents, mayors, governors, they are puppets. And so if you lean on this side or that side, it doesn't matter because they're all puppets. Who's running the show? Well, that's for you to figure out, but they're called the elite. They are pulling the strings behind the scenes, and it affects every country. But what our problems are in this country, it's happening all around the world. We're not the only ones with immigration problems. We're not the only ones with border problems. It's universal. But this country, for the coming year, it looks like there's going to be a return of a better life, more leisure time, more money. How that's going to happen, I don't know. But that's if I'm just reading the chart. And at the base of this chart is leisure time. It's having fun. It's children. It's creativity. And this is love. It's also money down here, Venus. There's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of maybe an expansion on children's education, anything like that in that area here because it's Jupiter. And there'll be a lot of communication about resources, especially for the home and and the family, and maybe food, because Venus has to do with food, and Cancer has to do with meals and family and the preparation. So Black Moon Lilith now is in the eighth house, which has to do with psychology, but it also has to do with underneath the surface and that Scorpio energy, that Pluto energy, because it's the natural house of Pluto and Scorpio. So there could be more government and big company corruption coming out that we're going to hear about. And it's going to make people a little upset. So that's like the year coming up. And we have escapism, we have responsibility to the world. We also have like music, dance, Neptune. It's a spiritual planet. It's about having faith. It's the invisible world. Okay. So, and it's together with Saturn, which means that dreams, because Neptune's about dreams, it's hypnosis, it's also magic, fairy tales, but dreams can come true because Saturn is reality. And so that means that this country can make dreams come true for humanity, for the community. And we'll see. And Chiron is in Taurus, and there's going to be a healing of the earth and a healing of the resources and money, the money system. So how it's going to happen, it's all going to be forced with transformation of Pluto. It will always be, it will be irreversible change that's going to occur with Chiron, along with the Uranus, sudden, shocking, uh, enlightening, and also with Jupiter is going to make it big. And Jupiter in Leo in itself is a whole nother video because of what that means. So it's going to be one whole year of Jupiter in Leo. So make sure you kind of don't get wrapped up in all this explosive energy this year. This is the explosive energy that I'm talking about. For the United States, there'll be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that will be very explosive, but it will be insightful too. Great ideas. And like I said, could be AI, but it will cause a lot of action and there'll be a lot of information coming out. Maybe next year, but for sure this year, a lot of information coming out. Now, the next chart we're going to look at will be the progress chart. And a progress chart is when you take a chart, when you move the planets and the points. So let's say the ascendant has moved 250 years. So that's each sign is 30. So it would move, it would go 30, 30, 30, 30, up to 250. So that's what a progress chart is. That's why every year that you're alive and you age one more year, you get a little different feelings, you get different ways of communicating, things could change. So what's really unique here and what's changing for the United States on the progress chart is the zeros. We have to pay attention to the zeros and the 29s. So zero in astrology means the beginning. So the beginning, we have some new cycles, and that's always exciting. So we have a lot of excitement in the area of shared resources, banking, stock market. It's not your money, it's money together that you don't have control over. So the United States has shared resources, new beginnings right here with the vertex and the part of fortune. So it's almost like divinely guided and the greatest joy, success, and prosperity. So that's very interesting. That's a new cycle. And it's these 2 points are having a conversation with Pluto. Pluto is like, okay, we got to change this because we're not going to stay the same. So that's the little bit of a tug of war. It's a need to balance between self, autonomy, and relationships. And without even knowing any astrology, you can look and see that's the climate right now. Do we need to be involved with all these other countries? And, let's close the borders and things like that. So every year that goes by, it changes it could change the sign, but it changes the number of the degrees. Also, Neptune has gone into Gemini on the progress chart. This is not a transit, which means that imagination, I believe, fantasy, music, escapism, also has to do with drugs, is going into the rational, intellectual sign of communication. So with AI, you're going to have all kinds of interesting, unbelievable things happening. And that's a new cycle. So you're going to say, well, how long is that going to last? 30 years. And this will last 30 years because it goes up to 29 degrees and 59 minutes. So this is a new cycle, and they're all 30 years in a progressed chart. So that's interesting. And in 3 years, it's going to hit the top of the chart, which means that's going to be our social status. It's going to be the invisible world. It could be anything. It could even be anything microscopic because that's invisible. It also could be things that we can't see out in space, but we'll have more information about. But it will affect who we are on social status, you know? It could even be the space program because it's talking to the greatest joy, success, and prosperity and divine intervention here. And that's how we look at things. And it goes right to the root of the chart. And the root is Sagittarius, which has to do with higher learning. It has to do with adventure. You see? So that's the 3 zeros are very important. Now let's look at the house cusps and see if there are any zeros. And I don't see any zeros on the house cusps. So we're good there. But there is a 29. And the 29 is at the end of the road, at the end of the cycle. So it's like, oh, well, I'm moving out. I'm not going to be living here anymore. Or I'm changing my job. I'm not going to be here anymore. You know the energy. It's like, I don't care anymore. I just want to get out of there. And it's not like when you have something brand new, like here, you're excited. It's like a new dress, new pair of pants, new home. There's an excitement to it. It's like, oh, oh, I get to, and then after a while, the excitement wears away. But the 29 is the sense of urgency. So there's this urgency with taking action in the initiative of science, our relationships with science, with the world, with the community. So that's going to change. And next year, it's going to be in 0 degrees Pisces. Now, Pisces has to do with God. It has to do with faith. It has to do with letting go, the invisible world. And the way that this whole thing could play out when you look at all the charts and you put them together, the way that we will communicate will be very different, like never before. Maybe we'll be using mental telepathy. Maybe we'll find out stuff that's so horrible and despicable that from the grassroots, we revolutionize this country and say, no more. We're not putting up with this. You're not going to get our tax dollars. I'm just giving you for instances. But we don't really know exactly what, but anything could happen right now. Anything. And then we're going to look back and say, never before has this happened. So that is the tool that we're using. It's to give us a heads up, like this is going to be big, but we have to stay calm and we have to stay grounded. And there's a little bit of an urgency too with Chiron, with a healing in our values, our morals, and justice. So that's going to be interesting as well. And our purpose is on self, to be self-sufficient, and it's to let go of the people pleasing that we've been doing for years, especially the last 16 years. Okay, so it's still Leo, the progress is, we're a Leo and we're like the kings, and this energy has been going on for 14 years. We're spending money like like there's so much money, but that's gotta calm down. And in another 14 years, we'll see what happens. That's a progressed chart. Okay. Now let's take a look at, and I didn't even go into the way they're talking, the planets are talking to one another. That's a whole nother level. So if we're talking one-on-one with a client and they want to know more about, well, how is this divine intervention and the greatest joy, success, and prosperity going to impact me? Well, it has to do with the root of the chart, with your values, and maybe some travel involved, or different cultures. So that is something you could look at, or it could have to do with creativity and children. So there might be some changes there. And that's what you do. You see where these points or planets are connecting. And it's just using words to translate the energies of these planets. So the next chart we're going to look at is the birth chart and let me get this going over here. 1 second. And we're gonna, 1 second. So this is the birth chart on the inside of the wheel. This is the birth chart of the United States. And now this is a progressed chart of the United States. So it's like a solar arc. We call that the solar arc. And we're going to compare the progressed solar arc chart that we just looked at on its own. We're going to compare that to the astrology chart. So, for example, you have to match numbers. So it's almost like you're playing bingo, if you all remember bingo. And you just go around the chart and you see 8 degrees Sagittarius. Are there any 8s on the outer wheel? And we go around, no 8s. All right, is there a 28 on the inner wheel? No 28, so we're good. Is there a 4 for the second house on the outer wheel? So there's no 4 on the outer wheel. And then we're going to look at 27, Pluto 27, and we're going to see if there's any 27s in the outer wheel. No 27s in the outer wheel. And let's look at the 6 degrees of north and south node, see if there are any 6 degrees in the outer wheel, and we don't have any. So if we get a match, that means that if we get like 3 matches, we'll probably have a major event, because there are rules of 3 in astrology. So as you can see, this is very tedious work. And 26, we go around the chart, and there is no 26. And 25, the IC, there is no 25. I'm going pretty fast. And then 20, is there a 20? Next year there'll be a 20. And so we have the 8. And for the 8, we don't have an 8 because we checked it for the ascendant. How about a 21? And on the outer wheel, yes, we have a 21. So right away, we know that Mars, natal Mars, 21 degrees Gemini, has a relationship. It's a square with the progressed sun this year. So that means we might be involved with hostility, aggression, and the way we speak in the area of relationships and in our communication. You know, it comes across maybe we come across very go with the flow, very unstructured, but it is impacting Mars. So there could be some hostility. And now we have to remember what else is going on with the outer planets. That trifecta out there of Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune with Jupiter opposing Pluto, okay? Jupiter opposing and Mars opposing Jupiter. So it's like all this going on, something's going to give, but we don't know exactly what. Everyone that thinks they know, if they get it right, it's a lucky guess. But what is 100% true and what is 100% accurate is that natal Mars, 21 degrees Gemini in the seventh house, is square to the progressed Sun, 21 degrees Pisces, period. That we can't change. But how it's interpreted is different. We also have a relationship between the progressed Sun and Pisces. So we might have this like very spiritual nature. I see it, it's God back into the government. We're able to talk about God, even in corporations. So there's a little bit of a change there. Also, the invisible world, which has to do with fantasy, hypnosis, more psychic stuff, intuition, imagination. And so that's impacting here the greatest joy, success, and prosperity. This is a flowing relationship right here because it's in 21 degrees Cancer. So this is flowing together. And we can't stop it. When we say flow, it's like water just flows along and there's no effort there. Over here, there's effort with the Pisces and the Gemini energy with Mars and the Sun. And it could be for this year, we might be involved with a lot of hostility, okay? But if you learn anything from astrology, this too shall pass. Nothing stays the same. However, with these outer planets and transits, they could last a long time, okay? So we took care of the 21, and then we move forward to, where was I here? We move forward to the 3, see if there are any 3s in the outer wheel. And as I scan very quickly, yes. But that's the descendant and ascendant, so that doesn't matter. So we have a 13, and we look to see if there's a 13 in the outer wheel. Well, we have some 14s, and that will happen next year. So we might see that in 6 months where we have the North and the South node, which has to do with our purpose, and the expansive energy of Jupiter expanding that spirituality. So that we'll see between in the next 6 months to a year. So let's pay attention. And so this is a chart reading for the United States, not a personal chart reading, but it's personal to the country. So now we're going to look at the 21. We did the 21, and we can look and see if there are any 22s. Next year, there'll be a 23, and then we'll look for any 24s, and no 24. And then the 6, we did the 6 already, no 6s, and the 27, 27 last year, we had the 27, and that was a lot of the exposure of the human trafficking and the Epstein scenario and all that. You notice that they have all the evidence in the world. Now, this should make you all pause, because if you live in the United States and all these injustices are going on, and you're finding out every day somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they get away with it. So the question is, why are they getting away with it? When is this going to stop? Who's going to stop it? How are we going to stop it? But it is going to stop. You see, we can't ignore it anymore. We can't ignore it. So you're going to hear more and more and more, and you can't trust the news because they don't talk about it. They're hiding it. So it's all about money. It's all about corruption and just people getting away with literally, murder, all kinds of bad stuff. So we looked at 24, 6, 28, 22, and no 22s yet. And then we have the 25, and let's do the 14. So the 14, which has to do with Saturn again. So Saturn is the elder. Saturn is when you grow up, when you become mature. So we are not only in the transit chart, we're having a solar Saturn activity of, we're growing up. This country is growing up. It's only 250 years old, not like other longstanding countries, right? But our purpose, and right here, we got 14 degrees Aries, 14 degrees Libra, and our purpose is on relationships and us. Like, we need to put ourselves first. So we talked about that, and there's going to be maybe a different structure too for the government. Now, and that's how we do the progressed solar arc chart. It's a progressed chart, and we compare it to the natal chart. And last but not least, we're going to look at, if I could get this thing to come up, there she goes. And I marked this up so you'll see it a little better. And this is a tri-wheel. That means there are 1, 2, 3 charts. All right. So this is when the rubber hits the road, as they say. We have right here in the middle, in the inside is the natal chart. The second wheel is the progress chart, and the third wheel is the transit chart. So now let's look and see. If we look at the yellow is the 4 degrees transiting Pluto, excuse me. And we have Jupiter, we have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So Pluto, Neptune, Uranus in 4 degrees. And Jupiter in 0 degrees, which will be in 4 degrees soon, opposite of Pluto. So this is going to cause major irreversible changes. In other words, for example, when they dropped the atomic bomb in Japan, it changed the whole country. However, it took a long time to rebuild it, but it always is better than before. Okay, so another example on a personal level, you have 2 small, an egg and a sperm. They're microscopic, and then we have a potential human being that could arise. So this is something big, and we're not sure what, but it has to do with resources, our own resources, and shared resources, whether it's a stock market, insurance companies, corporations, industries around the world, but big changes, right? And it could reveal stuff too, because Pluto is underneath the surface, but it's digging. It digs. It's like a detective, all right? And it's also, it's the use of and opportunities for imagination being used, hypnosis. So there could be a whole new way of treating people in medicine, because this is all so different than it has been, because we have the planet of healing right here, healing on the physical level, but it's next to, it has a relationship with Neptune, which is the invisible. And then we also have Uranus, which is frequency. And it's like shock, a lightning bolt. It's AI. All this stuff working together will change the landscape of medicine as we know it. You know, we probably won't be doing things the way we used to do it, these operations. There'll be more high tech. There, if you research and see what kind of innovations, because Uranus is all about innovations, have occurred in the medical world, it will blow your mind. They put these chips in the brain where people that couldn't walk now could walk, people that couldn't hear could hear, people that couldn't see could see. And these are never before things that have been done. Okay, so that's all on the yellow. Now, the next thing we look at is the pink. So that's the 0 degrees, and there's a direct relationship with our purpose and our the divinely orchestrated energies that people just appear, things just appear out of nowhere, but it will give us the greatest joy, success, and prosperity, especially from healing. So again, we're talking about healing and changes in our purpose. It's also has to do with Neptune and the invisible world. It could have to do with viruses, or microscopic stuff, or things, or mysticism, spirituality, hypnosis, and innovations, and sudden and shocking things. It also could be drugs, alcohol, and shocking stuff about drugs and alcohol. Who knows? Maybe this COVID thing will be further exposed. And also, Jupiter just makes things bigger, where you're like, oh, we thought it would never get so big, but it's just getting bigger and bigger, where you can't ignore it. And it has to do with, again, with money, shared resources. So it's our purpose. This is our purpose coming up. And let's see how that plays out. And then the last thing is we have the red zone here. That's the transiting sun. So the sun moves 1 degree a day. So for the next so many days, let's say 15, no, for the next 19 days, the sun is going to light up this whole area of money and food, and making things bigger, and justice, and maybe foreign travel or different cultures. This also could do with immigration, because it's also going to have, we talked about the solar return, and that shed some more light on the country. And then our greatest joy, success, and prosperity will light up. It will be like miraculous things will start happening. And then it will be like, okay, maybe there'll be a shift in the way we think, or the way we process our information, or even the way that we get our news. All that happens with the sun. And then Mercury is in retrograde right now, but so it's going from this area here from 6 degrees of Cancer all the way to 16 degrees of Cancer, or 26 degrees of Cancer, and back and forth. So that will impact these same planets and points again. So you have a Mercury return, and we have a solar return, and then we have a Mercury retrograde, along with all this other stuff going on at once. That's why when people say, what does it mean? I have Jupiter 29 degrees in Pisces in my 7th house. What does that mean? Well, I can't answer that because I need to put things in context. We got to look at the rest of the chart, you see? And, and look here, you have Mercury here at 25 degrees, and that's impacting on the natal moon. So this is Aquarius, which is an air mutable sign. And then, so we have a little bit of adjusting to do here, emotional adjustment in the way we get information about our family, our home. You see, the planets are always talking to one another. And it also is all this news and information impacts on our midpoint, not midpoint, sorry, our the top of the chart, which is 25 degrees Virgo. So, there could be some criticism going on, but it's very analytical. So more information to synthesize. So this country will never be the same again. And we just have to stay calm, be cool. But I hope you got a real good insight of how astrology is used to look at a natal chart and all the 6 charts together to give you an informational forecast for, your life. So thank you again for staying to the very end. This has been a really long video, and I'd love to hear your comments. You take care, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.